ain't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blur Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. I have a very special guest today, and if you've been with the channel for a while, you probably will recognize this face. It is none other than Nandor Fox Shaffer, who some of you may know as I guess you could say the proprietor of Foxhole Comics, also responsible for books like Manchild, which we talked about on the channel here before, also Seasons and Lifeline. And today we're going to be talking about Nandor's next big thing coming up, and that is the Fabled offering. What's going on, man?
Hey, Ernie, man, it's so great to be here. Yeah, and thank you for that wonderful intro. It's been a while since we've spoken, and I think the last time we were talking about the first issue of Manchild, and now I have both issues 1 and 2 out, and we're getting ready to launch a Kickstarter for issue 3 later this year.
God.
So, yeah, and there's a lot of great, exciting things happening with that series, but I'm very excited to talk about my new sci-fi fantasy book, The Fabled Offering. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's pleasure's mine. I feel like we live in a pretty good time as far as like comics go, where I feel like just about anything you could possibly want is out there in some capacity or another. And it's kind of funny when you were talking to me initially about the comic, the first thing that kind of popped in my head was two of my favorite genres of anything, not just comic books, but just media in general, is fantasy, and I love sci-fi. I also kind of and even kind of split the difference on those. A little bit of eldritch horror, and I felt like when you sent this to me and I was taking a look at it, I was like, I kind of felt a little bit of everything in there, and it was like it scratched that itch. So I guess we're talking this bad boy up. What is the Fabled Offering for the uninitiated?
So yes, I would love to kind of pitch this to people and let them know just what I've been working on really for the last, I'd say, 2 years now. From scripting it to working with Marco Robla and the artist, and to finally be here.
Fantastic, by the way.
Yes, man. He's become a brother in arms for me. We're working on something new right now. So some really cool stuff that I'm really proud of that we've been able to accomplish with this book. But so the quick pitch for the Fabled Offering is that it's a 46-page sci-fi fantasy one-shot about a lone princess who's on a quest to save herself and her kingdom from her own past trauma. And she, throughout the story, she is a pregnant princess who is alone on this journey to reach Gafira Mountain to meet this ancient deity called Sizen. And she has to, when you meet this deity, you present an offering to this deity, and as a negotiation for something that you desire, something that you want, something that you hope to get from Sizen in return for this offering. And so, it's a little bit of that eldritch horror, like dark fantasy stuff that you mentioned. And there's a big inspiration for this book was Seven to Eternity, if we're talking about comics, from Rick Remender and Jerome Opeña, which is just one of my favorite comics of all time, but also probably my favorite fantasy comic book series that I've read. That was a kind of the impetus to make this story. After reading it, I wanted to make something in that vein because of I'm such a huge fan of these genres, but something about that challenge of clashing these genres and making things try to feel natural in a way, and in sync, that balance act, like we were talking about, splitting the difference there. So this is a very character driven story about a mother. She's pregnant throughout this whole journey as she climbs this mountain and tries to get to this deity. And I just thought, if anyone who's read my stories, they know that they're very character driven, and I try to get to the heart of the character, kind of interweave that with the story and the plot itself.
Mhm.
And that's really kind of where the Fabled offering bloomed into what it became. So, if you're a fan of Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, my
Mhm.
kind of my very, very quick pitch, one sentence pitch would be like, if a Star Destroyer, landed in Middle Earth, it's like, that's kind of like what I was going
Mhm.
for. What the kind of my North Star was, that
Mhm.
image, that idea, but kind of more retro sci-fi than you might be more familiar with. It kind
Yeah.
of, I really love like the Isaac Asimov Foundation trilogy, and I love a
Okay.
lot
Yeah.
of the like 50s, 60s, 70s retro stuff. And a lot of people who've looked at this book see a lot of heavy metal influence, which I really,
Yeah.
really love. I think that kind of like if it came out in the 80s and it was in Heavy Metal magazine, it would totally make sense. Like, it just clicks with people.
I could see it. I like. I saw a little bit of man. It's so weird to really sit down and kind of itemize it, because now like I'm starting to see like so many different things that like I love. Like, yeah, I see all those things. I see the heavy metal magazine. I see like the
Yeah.
kind of I won't say not exactly like 2000 AD
Right.
magazine, just because like that was always more like high science fiction,
Like
like
dystopian. Yeah.
yeah, but like
Yeah.
but the vibe of it, like I was like, yeah, this feels I was and also even kind of like a taste of that old like old school Conan,
Yeah.
not like pre Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm talking pure dark fantasy, like just yeah. I don't know. It was something about it, and I felt like yeah, it had the vibes. The Eldritch horror stuff that I love. I definitely, especially like with there's a few different scenes I think you did where you hear you're supposed to be I guess hearing the voice of Sizen and
Yeah.
and hearing this kind of like otherworldly voice like calling out, and it's like I don't know, it was a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of really cool imagery, and I would even dare say like chief among everything else. I really liked the journey from the beginning to the end for the main character, because the main character goes through a lot to get to the
Yes.
end of this story. And I'll add another thing in there. Because I've just recently started doing this. I've been going back to down the rabbit hole of old tales from the crypt. And like there was even like kind of like just in terms of like plot twist and like narrative direction towards the end, where like the thing you thought you were going to get is not exactly the thing that you actually see at the end. Like there's a surprise as to how it all plays out, and I really like it
Yes.
was a very much like
Yes.
a, oh wait a minute, okay, oh, this is gonna go this way, and it's like oh no wait, nope, nope, not yet, and it's like you get there, it's like oh wait, no, it's something else. So no, I think for one, you said you've been working on this for the past couple of years,
Yeah.
and it shows because I can tell that this was done very carefully. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, that's what you're always hoping
Mhm,
for, when people look at your work. What I'm, when you finally let go of your art, and you
mhm,
you abandon it, and you let people take it in and absorb it, and
mhm,
basically own it for themselves. You no longer own it in a way.
mhm,
And that's a really hard thing to do as a creator, especially for someone like me and just my own personality, because I really, these things are so personal in a way, because I spend so much time with them. And Aurelia, the main character, the princess of the story, being with her and going through these things with her, and writing all of the things that she goes through and all the struggles that she has to go through, and hopefully having those moments and those scenes and those moments of reflection and introspection, and where she ends up by the end
mhm,
of the story was just such a huge uh, task for me and challenge, because none of it works if you don't feel that by the end, if you don't
Mhm.
really you know have that connection. And so that was this like such a huge burden for me. And then finally finishing it and getting all the art and all the lettering done, and I made so many edits when it came to every line of dialogue, and making sure that when the letters came back, like, does this work? Does this look right with the art? All those things are just so important when you're crafting something, and you're getting ready to unleash it, to the world. And so seeing that care recognized, and having other people who have come to me and who've read it and reviewed it and talked to me about it, has been so validating, because you always worry about putting your work out there and what it's going to be. I've never written
Mhm.
a sci-fi fantasy book before. This was a new genre for me. This was
Mhm.
a new way for me to kind of stretch my creative muscles and do something really different. And I really consider this book to be my business card. I think it's my strongest work that I've done, to where you read it, and if you like it, and if you enjoyed it, and if hopefully you see the care that was
Mhm.
put into it, not only for myself but for Marco. I mean,
Right.
Marco Roblin, his art and the amount of detail and the amount of I would say the intensity of how much work we put into this book
Yeah.
is shown on every page, and you can just see it displayed for your enjoyment, for your entertainment, but also for to move you. We really wanted to make a story that uh you would read, and you would want to read it again, because it does have that kind of twist towards the end,
Yes.
to where you're like, now wait a second, wait, like I have to go back, and I have to see like what happens here. And has this
Which I
character been
did.
here all along? Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I tried to do my own M. Night Shyamalan as best I could, to where it's like it makes you look at the book completely differently by the
Mhm.
end of it. And
Mhm.
that particular scene was the crux of the book. I mean, there is no Fabled offering without that twist, because it basically puts everything on the table and makes Aurelia have to face something even more like grueling for her, that she didn't think.
Right.
It was already difficult, it was already hard to get to this moment, to get to this point. And so for this particular moment and scene to happen between these characters, it just it rises and falls on that moment. And so um being here, and it is a complete story. There's more that we could do with it, and there's
Yeah.
more that we could do with this world. But something that was really important for me to do, because I'd never done it with my other projects, was to make a story that you could read and have a beginning, middle, and end, and feel like you could mull over it for a bit, and that way you don't just read it and it takes 5 or 10 minutes to read. You actually have to spend time with it. And then
Mhm.
if you enjoy it and you like it, you can go back and you can reread it, because you're seeing it in a new way. You're seeing it in a new light. And to give that value to the reader and to give the value to the customer, I just think was really important for a one shot. And I picked the absolute worst genre to try to do a one shot in, and like an expansive sci-fi fantasy like world. I'm like, what did I do? Why did I do this? But a lot of the world building, a lot of the creatures and the aesthetics, is something that Marco brought to the table. And it's there for context, it's there for background. But I'm hoping that people find the I kind of label the Fabled offering an intimate epic, and that's what I
Mhm.
want people to get from it, to where it's very character driven. You're following this one princess on this journey, but um you get all of this flavor in the meantime, and you get all of
Mhm.
this excitement and flair and window dressing to make everything that, while rough and a struggle and kind of traumatic for the character, there's beauty in the way that it's crafted and the way that it's displayed. And um again, I really lend all of that to Marco, because he really he wowed me with every page. And something about his color palette that is so beautiful is it makes the entire book feel ethereal and alien
Yeah.
and timeless. And it's all about mood. It's all about the emotion of the moment rather than making everything look a particular way. And I think that's kind of been lost in a lot of comics where we're like so obsessed with like grounding things and realism and making things like, well, if that's like a metal pole, we have to make that gray or you
Mhm.
know, like steel or whatever. Like what material is it? It's like, well, it's not really about that. It's
Mhm.
really about what's happening on the page. It's about the the moments and the conversations and what you're feeling in that moment, you know, not necessarily the the logic of physics, but the logic of emotion. And that's something that I think uh writers should tap into more, because that's what I want to leave you with. I don't want to leave
Mhm.
you with the book that you're just like, well, that was accurate. Like that was
Yeah.
logically accurate. I want to leave you with a book that is like, that just tore my heart out and I don't know what to do with
Yeah.
myself, you know? So that's always been my goal. But sorry, that was a long tangent.
No. Well, I mean, because you hit on some things that I thought were very important. I always joke that, you know, when someone asks me my opinion about something that I thought was like just like okay,
Yeah.
I usually, oh well, yeah, if it's a movie, I was like, that was a movie I watched in 2024. Like that's all it was to me. It wasn't
Yeah.
it didn't mean anything more to me than that. But one thing I will definitely say is to go back to the original thing you said about like going back and reading, like I did. So upon my initial read, I read it the first time, and
Yeah.
as you get to the end of it, I back scrolled, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, no, like, hold on. I was like, wait a minute. Let me see. Let me go back. Let me see what. Let me make sure I was like, oh, okay, all right. I was like, this is. I was like, okay, this is what I thought it was. Okay, that did not go the way I was expecting it. Like it was such a surprise. And then like I went back again, just recently, today, just to kind of keep it fresh in my head, my thoughts
Yeah.
on it. And I was kind of doing the same thing again. I got to the end and I was like, man, I kind of want to. Let me go back through it one more. And it definitely is one of those things that, like, as I was reading it, because once again, it's a very beautiful book, very beautiful
Yeah.
book, and yeah, I think whatever the the imagination of Marco is, like what it all like
Yeah.
comes down to. Like the whole time I was like, man, I said this feels like I don't want to say fever dream, like as far as like from like a look perspective, but it feels like
Yeah.
something where like, yeah, I feel like I have been transported to another universe, and I'm just like, you know what? I tell you what, not exactly in the same tones, but like it would be like if you took Dorothy out of black and white Kansas and just moved her into Technicolor,
I
the
like
land
that
of Oz, like
analogy. Yeah.
yeah, but like on a much like but like but instead of Technicolor, it's more like of a just this really wild, colorful, kind of hazy, but not kind of like vibrant yet dark, kind of like colorful fantasy. Like it just it's a really, I don't know, man. Like the whole time I was just looking at it, and I was just like, yeah, like I felt like I was in the world. I felt like I was in that world,
Yeah.
like kind of like watching as all these things are like kind of unfolding before me. And I definitely I will say, man, I think that it is definitely like the most different thing that that you have done, but I feel like you did a really good, like you did a really good job with it, to the point where I was like, yeah, why was he doing this before? Like where was this? I was like, where was this before? Like I was like, you've been holding out. You've been like holding out.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier at the start of this, bringing up Man-Child Seasons and Lifeline, which they're neither are in the same genre as this, but I was like, that's why I think like it was such a shocker to me, because like when you sent it to me, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm familiar with these other books, so I was like, okay, I kind of, all right, I'm prepared. And when I went in, I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. When I started reading, I was like, I went back and checked the link on the email. I was like, wait a minute, is this the one he's? I was like, because like,
Was this from Nandor or is this
yeah,
from someone else?
was this
You know?
somebody else? Well, because like I get a ton of books all the time, so like
Yeah.
and I can't tell you how many times like I have mixed up people's stuff. So like I thought, I was like, oh no, I was like, nah, I mixed this up. This got to be. And I was like, oh no, I was like, never mind. I was like, okay, all right. Well, I was like, I was like, man, I was like, I was very impressed because I was like, yeah, if you told me, this is the first time you ever done anything like this, but I was like, you did such a good job with it. I almost didn't believe you.
Like I must have like a lot of stories in my back pocket that I just haven't released yet. But no, I swear, like everything that I write, I really put a lot of care into, which a lot of people do that, a lot of writers do that, and they should do that. But I have never in my comics journey of writing, and I've been doing this for 5 to 7 years now, and making comics and making books. And something that I've realized about how to kind of get people's attention, and what I need to do as a self promoter and someone who is trying to get the word out and break into the industry and do all those things, you have to get out of your comfort zone sometimes and do something to get their attention and to get people's attention. And what I really wanted to do with this book, not only do a one shot, which I haven't done before, but also play with the genre that I haven't played with before, and get new readers who they might like Lifeline or Manchild or Seasons, and they can kind of look at it and see the oh, this is a Nandor book, this is a Shaffer book that they're used to. They're used to my, I don't know what you call it, my style, my tone, the way I make things and whatnot. And it's like when you go to a restaurant and you're expecting like that's what you're coming here for. And so I wanted to throw something new on the menu. I wanted to throw something like from a different country. Like we won't just stick with American food. We'll do like some Asian fusion or something. You know what I mean? So it's like trying to bring something to the table and bring something to my portfolio that I could show. I'm not just. I've never wanted to be a constricted or pigeonholed to a specific genre or a specific way of telling stories. And I feel like as a writer, particularly if you read Alan Moore's like Writing for Comics book that he wrote, he talks about if what you're writing isn't challenging you, isn't difficult, isn't hard on you, you're doing it wrong. You shouldn't be writing that. You shouldn't be writing that story. And I can say this particular story was the most challenging thing that I had written. And it was the shortest thing that I had written too, and I was just like, why is this happening? Like, why is this such a struggle for me? And it was because of the length. It was because of the genre. It was because of the story that I was trying to tell. And, I'd never written a female lead character before. And I never, written a character who had, is a mother, who's a pregnant warrior and a warrior princess. And all of those things were new for me, were new challenges, and were new ways for me to kind of dive into. I mean, I've been such a huge fan of these genres forever. It's like it's been in me. I know it's been in me to tell these stories, but to find that opportunity to finally, get to a point where I was like, okay, I really look at things in a pragmatic, almost like end of the world type way, where I'm almost like, if I only had one story to tell, if I only had one sci-fi story to tell, what would that story be? If I only had one shot at making this, like, what would it be? And that was the Fabled offering. Like, that is what the story became, because I was like, I'm going to, I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm going to do something that, I hope compels people, do something that has a lot of depth to it. That's, it's strange and otherworldly, and it's colorful and vibrant, and it has like this, pastel watercolor, fever dream vibe. Like, people who have read Seasons, they've told me that they I've gotten that before where people have said this feels kind of like a fever dream. And so in that respect, I will say Fabled Offering is kind of like connected in that way. Like if you like
Mhm,
see, so I think you'll like the Fabled Offering
mhm,
more than maybe people who've read Manchild or Lifeline. But in any case, in any story that I'm writing is to strive for excellence in character and plot, and to try to make them feel like they're so connected that they're inseparable. And that's something that is really, hard to do, because you want the character to have agency. You want them to be able to
mhm.
make these decisions and these choices and not feel like the plot is forcing them into this decision, and
Yeah.
that's something that you have to balance there. But um I'm happy you say that, because I love this world, and I love uh playing with Aurelia in this world and these characters, and um Sizen and the idea of these deities. I had a lot of world building that I had done that did not get into the book. I really had
Mhm,
to trim the fat and try to make something that felt coherent and consistent to the story I was trying to tell. And it's something that, at the end of the book, I kind of have this small afterword where I kind of invite the reader to say, tell me what you think of this. Tell me if you want
mhm,
more of this. Tell me you know, if you were to if there was one more page, or the next page, the next story of what Aurelia would go through or what she would do,
mhm,
what would that look like? Do you want that? And that's something that I'd never done before with my other projects as well. So, there's a lot of new things here that I wanted to experiment with, and I really take a lot of my projects that I do. They're very personal. They're very experimental, and always trying to push the envelope of what the medium can do. How
mhm,
you can play with the medium, and how you can play with uh, comics, and in terms of page turns and splashes and all that kind of stuff.
mhm.
For this particular book, there's so many like double page splashes and splash pages to like give you this sense of like the cinematic feeling, and
Mhm.
it was just like gorgeous. Marco's work is just so gorgeous, and seeing all of that play out. But I'm really glad that you feel that way, and I
Mhm.
really hope that do when they read the book. And I can't wait. The PDF's been sent out, and we have the Indiegogo right now that's live for people who still want to purchase the book. And I
Mhm.
just got a notification that I'll be getting the physical books within about 6 weeks now. So they're
Oh,
on their way. They're on their way.
as I kind of reflect on some of what I read, and thinking like the types of vibes and everything that come out of the Fabled Offering, like man, one of the things and I don't know what's in the cards for the future
Yeah.
of this universe, but man, like one of the things I was thinking about was like, if you, I was like, I could really easily see like the Fabled Offering being like one of those things where like you get like some out there like journey into dark fantasy, like every like issue, like every installment is like just some wild like just insane tale of
Yeah.
people going through, like I don't know, it was like that, it was kind of like it was kind of born out of just when I was thinking back to the tales from the crypt aspect of it, just like yeah, I could easily see this being a world you could just explore, like just
Yeah.
a whole wide open world, just rich for exploration. And I guess you know what, let me ask you this, because I struggle with this myself. um Something you had alluded to earlier was kind of letting go of the story, like
Yeah.
kind of and putting it into other people's hands. Like it's something I've struggled with myself. What um how do you combat that? How do you get past that point so you can get to where you can feel comfortable
Yeah.
in putting the story in someone else's hands?
It really, for me, it really comes down to feeling like when I write the script for a story, I really have to, but by the time I get to the final page, and then I kind of look back on it as a whole, and try to make sure that the dots connect, and that
Mhm.
I'm, not like, wait a second, why is this character here and here on this page, or making sure everything is legible and
Mhm.
understandable and all that kind of stuff, that you have to make sure you kind of like are editing yourself, which is a
Mhm.
huge part of the process. But um I really have to always go back to what was my initial goal. What was I trying to say? A lot
Mhm.
of my stories, like I said, they come from a personal place, and they come from a need to express feeling or thought, or a struggle that I'm, going through, or I've seen other people go through in their life, and trying to uh, solidify that and give it a voice,
Mhm.
and so, like, it's a very, I would say it's a very, like, it depends on your level of satisfaction in your story, and your level of satisfaction in executing that idea. And everyone has different, I'd say, measurements for that. And every writer and creative person is like, oh, that's good enough, or I'm just tired of this. I don't want to work on it anymore. I kind of just give it up, or I'm happy with it, but I'm not like sold on it. And
Mhm.
I'm always kind of going back and forth with my stories. And with the Fabled Offering in particular, it started out as like a 32 page or a 30-page script. And then as I was working on it with Marco, and we were getting pages done, and we were talking about these scenes, we would have these, 2-3 hour chats on the phone, and we would talk about the story, and kind of go back and forth with it. It turned into a 46-page, one shot. Like, it expanded a lot, and it gave that feedback. And because Marco was the first person to like read it, to be
Mhm.
able to take it in. And that's always where the magic happens, and like getting that perspective, and getting that visual perspective. Because the story will also make or break, but depending on the visual, depending on the art direction, all that stuff. And so um when we were kind of developing it, and putting everything together, and putting the pieces together, I could see, and this even goes to the lettering aspect of it too, where um if I feel particularly that I have, I guess, satisfied and told the story I wanted to tell. And like I said, that can be different for other people. But I realized that, like, I was happy with the script, but with the art, and then as I got to the lettering and edited some dialogue and moved things around and all that kind of stuff to make everything feel in sync and coherent with the
Mhm.
art, you kind of, you're scared, you're nervous, because you're like, like, do I need another set of eyes? Do I,
Mhm.
I don't work with an editor. I edit everything myself. And
Mhm.
so um it's just one more expense that indie creators just don't have sometimes. But
Yeah.
um, I've I've never had an editor on any of my stories, any of my books. And there's a blessing and curse to that, because you take full creative control, and you
Mhm.
take full creative responsibility,
Yeah.
which I think is, your story will live or die on your shoulders. And I think you
Mhm.
have to be really um confident in your ability, but also be really open to criticism in that way. And that's something that, I'm very protective of my stories, and very protective of
Mhm.
what I'm trying to say. And so finding that satisfaction, I think, is where you're able to realize, it's time to let it go. It's time to abandon your art. And also, there comes a point where it's like you've been working on it for so long, that you look back and you go, man, like, it's time. It has to be
Yeah.
time, because otherwise you're just stuck, and you feel stuck. And you kind of have to be like, say la vie, like, what will be, and it'll land where it lands. And that's really, I think that's a mature take on trying to finally move on to the next thing. Because I
Mhm.
will say, out of all the stories that I've written, this was the hardest for me to let go, because I felt like I had the most writing on it. I had because, and also, working with someone as talented as Marco, I have to meet him. I have to meet him where he is and meet him at his level,
Mhm.
where it's like, like I can't shortchange you. I can't do this to where I'm making your art look bad. I'm making the story look bad. Like, you make me a better writer, and that's what artists will do. Is like, you want to meet them where they are, and you want to
Mhm.
do something that, with that marriage, it
Yeah.
just hopefully will uh, will complete its task and will do its job, and all of that. So um, I think it does. Short answer there is just, it comes down to your own personal satisfaction with your writing and your ability to uh, say, okay, this is it. Like, I have to stop. Some people will more or less look at their story, be like, it's just good enough. Like I like, it's there, but you have to, if you've been spending so much time on it, and you've been reworking it and rewriting it and going over and over again,
Mhm.
it's only a matter of time before um you're going to actually do a detriment to your story, because you're going to be
Mhm.
overthinking to such a degree that it's no longer recognizable to what you wanted, to like what you were thinking about, because you're getting so kind of bent out of shape over the little things, and
Mhm.
that's something that you have to be able to learn how to be okay with.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree, because it's something that the whole idea of, like, holding on to it for too long, and going back over yourself, it's all stuff that kind of hits for me, because it's something that I have always had a fear of in my creative endeavors.
Yeah.
And I feel like you get to a certain point where you're either going to do the thing or you're not going to do the thing, and you
Right.
fall into that trap of, well, I'm good. Like, you're writing the great American novel. I mean, you're either going to write it or you're not. You're and I feel like, and even if it just, I know how that can be for a lot of people. So yeah, just, and and creativity has always been something that's very personal to me. Like, the idea of sharing my creative ideas with
Yeah.
someone it's a very, like, there are few relationships that are quite as intimate as sharing my creativity with someone.
Yes.
It's a very personal thing. So, like, that's why I always marvel at you people who could just so freely be like, "Oh yeah, here's this thing I want. Here you go, take it." And I'm just like, excuse me, like, I was like, yeah, because at that point, I always say, it's like, "Oh, we have entered a contract. We have entered a
Yeah.
contract." Like, it's something that's so much more, like, sacrosanct to me. So, like, I always admire when people, like, could just be like, "Yeah, yeah, here you go, man. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah."
and I've personally, I've ran into this a lot, with my own stories, where there's a
Mm,
lot of people who are afraid to, critique things. A lot of people are
mhm,
afraid to and I'm someone who I need that feedback, because it's the
mm,
only way that I'm going to be able to get better and become a better creator, a better
mm,
writer. And I totally understand, and I always tell people, like, when they've had me read their work or want me to talk about it or critique it, I always go, okay, these are things I really liked about it, and that I can see what you're going for.
mhm,
Do you, like? Then I ask them, do you want a more in-depth analysis, or, like,
mhm.
is that okay? Like, is that all
Yeah.
you wanted? Because there comes a point where, um, as a creative person, you realize just how touchy these things can be. And
Mhm.
the last thing you want to do is stifle someone's creativity, because, um, if it really can hurt your motivation to do anything else after that,
Yes.
you know. And I think you can really only judge someone so it's so case by case, because you're like, okay, is this your first story that you've written?
Hmm.
Is this something that have you been making comics for a while? Did you come from prose? Did you come from TV? Like
Hmm.
you have to be able to have that context to what you're
Right.
reading, because unless the person comes at it and comes at you and being like, this story is like the best story ever, and like I worked so hard on it, and I want you to like realize that, and they're very
Yeah.
adamant about it. It's like, okay, now we're gonna take you down a little bit here,
Yeah.
bro.
It's
Like your ego,
a
we gotta level you out. But if you're coming from a place of uh you know wanting that helpful criticism, that constructive criticism,
Mhm.
and coming from a place of humbly asking, please tear this apart in a way that gets to the fundamentals of the book, and to see if I executed it well and if I did it correctly.
Mhm.
Um, and but you have to offer that to the person who's critiquing it, because most
Mhm.
of the
Yeah.
time they're not going to be the ones to do that. Hopefully, there might be
No.
some people that you know take pleasure in that, which I think is awful. You got to be able to
Yeah.
nurture creativity and realize that, art in so many ways is just so subjective, and it depends
Mhm.
on your taste and the movies you like, and the entertainment that you absorb, and the video games that you play. And you might have that one specific scene or moment or sequence in a story that to you is like, you know it's the creme de la creme. It's like the
Yeah.
cream of the crop, and it's just like what you love about it. And then someone will be like, oh, that was my least favorite part. And
It's like,
it's just like,
oh,
oh yeah, like no, like that's it's
yeah.
just like it can really curb someone's
Mhm.
work method, and
Mhm.
their motivation to create anything of value. And so yeah, like it comes down to being able to uh, approach that in a way. And like I said, I've had people who've wanted me to read their stories and give critiques, and I've been giving the Fabled offering to peers in the comic book industry, and trying to get their
Mhm.
feedback, and get that sense of, okay, what am I doing wrong? What doesn't work? What is it that I can learn from and grow from?
Mhm.
And it's been, thankfully, a lot of it has been extremely positive, and very supportive. But there's always that part of you that is always like, are they just being nice? Are they just like, like trying to be careful with me, which I
Mhm.
appreciate. But
Yeah.
as you build those relationships with people, and with your peers, and with editors and writers, eventually, the closer you are with these people, and the more that you're able to kind of wear your heart on your sleeve,
Mhm.
um, hopefully you'll see them coming at it from a place of, you know, um, relatability, because they understand what
Mhm.
it's like to put your art out there. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
some people are just impressed that you did anything. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like that's an accomplishment in and of itself. And to be able to do something, like to create something, but then to create something well, or to create something extraordinary, that's when you're able to really get into the finer things of what it means to be a creator, and what it means to get your work critiqued.
Mhm. I tell people all the time, whenever I present anything, I always say, you don't don't be gentle.
my
Be
friend my friend wrote this. No.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, look, man, I passed off something to someone not too terribly long ago, and I was like, look,
Yeah.
I was like, if it's bad, skewer me. I was like,
Please
tell me. I was like, yeah, don't, because I don't want to be that person on American Idol, you know, that would go and be like, oh, I can sing. Everybody tells me how good I am. Oh, y'all just don't know. And like, I don't want to be that guy when it comes to like my creative endeavors. So yeah, I often tell people, and that's also a caveat I will also agree with as well. I don't solicit my brutality to other people unless they ask for it. Like, generally speaking, the only thing that I would probably ever withhold is if I have a criticism that is like a more of a personal thing for me, but is not something like I don't think it's a, oh, well, yeah, I think this makes your story bad or this makes your art bad or whatever. It's more of like I wouldn't do that. But like, I'm not going to tell you not to do it because, I mean, it doesn't piss me off or it's not like ruining anything. It's just like, oh, that's just a choice I probably would have gone a different direction. But like, unless someone asks me like for like absolute specifics, I usually keep that sort of stuff, to myself. Because I'm like, if I usually say, hey, I like this, I like that, and I can tell you, what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But I do think that, I've had some people recently ask that of me and they discovered, yes, I can be quite brutal if I am told to let loose. But I will say that I'm always more impressed by people that are willing to put themselves out there and just do the thing. Do the thing, because there's a lot of people like I know a lot of creative people who don't do anything with their creativity. So a lot of times, I'm just like, oh wow, I didn't know you could do so. Oh well, you should do more. But I definitely I don't know like what what your future plans are for this. But I would definitely love to see more of your kind of your forays into science fiction and fantasy, stuff like that. Because I think you got a calling for it. I don't know. That's all I can really say.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's the best compliment because it is my first foray into it, and then also I respect it so much that I'm a very analytical person and I'm a very critical person. If I want to be, I don't necessarily unless it's something that people are just like, oh, it's the best thing ever, and they're just whacking you over the head with it, and you're like, now wait a second,
it's like calm down now.
There's a few things that that don't work. Like, we got to talk about the things that don't work, but also you have to recognize when things work really well and why they work, and kind of breaking it apart and thinking about it. And so that's something that I've always loved to do, and I've always loved to look at panel counts and page counts and why this character's doing this, what's going on in their head, what's the theme, what is the story trying to tell me, or what's the story about. And those are the things that that's when you really start to be able to like enjoy something and do it in a more analytical way that can be productive and constructive for you as a creator. And if you are looking to review something, or you're looking for that feedback, you can provide that, or you can receive it too. And I see this as, like I said, an invitation to the reader. Just like like you were saying, it's like looking at it and being like, what else could we do with this world? What else could we do with these characters? And if you want to see more, me take on science fiction and fantasy and do all this, crazy trippy stuff that I would love to do, that's what the Fabled offering is really there for, is to invite you to talk about that and talk about those things, and kind of theorize about what would be next, because there's a lot of moving parts. And I play with time travel and timeline and like things like that in the story. and what this could mean for this point in time, and what could happen in the future, and how these things link and how they connect. And Marco and I have we've already talked about like what the next story could be, and what it might be, and like what some of the things we could do. Because I will say, I don't think I've ever had a more enthusiastic and creatively invested uh, partner in a story that I've done, because he's so adamant about, okay, like I know you have more, and like I know there's something else that I know you're holding back, right? Like that's kind of what you were saying. It's like, and I want to do more. I would love to do more. And that's something that I hope, as the physical copies go out and as more people read the PDF and more people take a chance on the book, that they basically are like, okay, Nandor, like I'm not going to buy another book of yours until you make the sequel, until you make the next thing, like you can't do this to us. And so I always I want that relationship with the reader. I want that camaraderie and that motivation, and to be like, hey guys, like this is something that I don't have infinite resources to do, and I don't have infinite amount of time to do. But if this is something that you guys want and you guys love and you want to see more of, then by all means, share it out, let people know, talk to me about it, email me about it, like DM me, and like let me know what you want to see and what your theories are, and what else could be in this world, and have that participation. I think is such a crucial part about being an indie creator, and letting the work speak for itself, and getting that feedback. And I had one person who read the book and had to read it again to really understand what I was going for, and to see the foreshadowing, and to see what was happening. And at first they didn't know what to think of it, and then they read it again and they were like, whoa, this is like really cool, actually. Like, oh my gosh, like, well, what did you do? And like, he said something like, the most powerful form of magic, and like artwork, and creativity, is when you have to meet the art halfway. You have to meet the work halfway, as a reader and as a participant. And all of my stories, I try to make them as like approachable, but hopefully absorbing enough to where you are asking yourself those questions, and you thinking about the story, and not to confuse readers, or not to like intentionally make them feel like they're out of the loop, but to have them participate with the story. And I think I've dotted all my I's and crossed all my T's, but you tell me, like let's have that conversation. And hopefully we can find the meaning in it together.
I can say that I think you put in a good effort. I think you put a very good effort.
Thank you.
I guess how you said you said there the Fabled offering is still on Indiegogo right now.
It is, yes.
And it's gone to print. Books will be coming in. We're gonna have links, all that good stuff, down in the description, pin comment below. I think everybody knows the drill by now, but just in case, down below, click on those. You'll get to go check it out. I'll have links to all of Nandor's social media and your website, everything. You can go check out some of his other stories. If if any of this sounds like it's of any interest to you, I highly advise go check out Manchild, go check out Lifeline, go check out Seasons, go check out all of it. You might
All of it, all of the Foxhole Comics catalog.
Just go do that
and
thing.
I want to let people know too. I won't. I'll have the Indiegogo live until I get the books and I start fulfillment. But when that starts, I will be closing it, and I have a couple of reward tiers and all of my add-ons on the campaign where you can buy my other books. If you want the Fabled offering, you can add those other books on there and do that. And also, everyone who does support the book, I'll send you the PDF right away. Like you can read the story like the next day or whatever. So that's something that, I hope people will find the opportunity to be a part of the story and be a part of this process. And crowdfunding comics is such an undertaking. It's such
Oh
a
yeah.
big part of making indie books, and so I'm always trying my best to get people on board. And like I said, if you like the Fabled Offering, you can read that book, and then you could purchase my other books that are on there. And I have like a Foxhole Comics bundle where you can get everything. It's like over 400 pages of comics, and there you go. Like that's it. And like I said, I have Manchild issue 3 that's going to be launching on
Mhm.
Kickstarter in October, and then
Okay.
I'm going to be uh I'm sold out on most, if not all, of Seasons volumes 1 and 2, the hardcovers that I printed.
Mhm.
And I'm going to be doing a campaign for the trade paperback editions that I'm going to be launching later as well. So for people that may have missed out on the physical copy, you can still get, of course, the digital books, but we're going to have new covers. We're going to have a lot of new exciting things for those books. And we're paving the way for volume 3 of Seasons, which is going to be the biggest book that I've ever done. It's going to be over 140 pages, and
Okay.
it's just going to be like, I've been working on this series for a really long time, and half of the story is complete, but I've been playing in other playgrounds. I've been doing the Fabled Offering, I've been doing Manchild, I've been doing
Mhm.
Lifeline, and to finally get back to the first story that I ever wrote, which was Seasons, and to continue
Mhm.
that story and continue the story of Fletcher, is going to be such an exciting time. Like, I cannot wait to launch this book and to get people volume 3. There's been a lot of people who've been asking me for it for a couple of years now, so it's like to be at this point where we can do volume 3 is going to be just massive. And then I also have another story, a post-apocalyptic noir story that is going to be um, announced soon, hopefully, is what I'm hoping
Oh.
for. So I won't give any more details, but that was something that I was working on for the better part of the year, and scripting it and writing it. And
Okay.
again, another genre I've never messed with before, and to do
Mhm.
something again, that's character driven, but that is definitely the darkest story that I've ever written. If you thought the Fabled Offering was dark, or you
Oh.
think these other things that I've written are dark, it's I think a lot of people are feeling uh stressed out in the doom and gloom of the world, and myself included. And this particular story that I finished writing was my way of putting all of that on paper. And so
Mhm.
look for the announcement of that, for people that are following me and want to see more of what I do. But yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of exciting things
Mhm.
ahead for Foxhole Comics and the stories that I'm making.
I can't wait to see more of it, and we'll get you back for you know we'll get you back for when you said, was it October, man child? We'll
Yeah,
get you back
man
around for
child.
that, and we'll get
Yeah,
you back
man.
for whenever you're ready to show off this next thing you got coming up. So we'll get you back on for that too. Nandor, I want to thank you for hanging out with me, for chit chatting, shooting the breeze, and talking
Heck yeah, man.
comics,
No,
and talking about the Fabled Offering and everything. And yeah, man, I appreciate it.
dude, no, thank you so much. I mean, your channel is one of my favorite comic book YouTube channels, and I've been watching you for a while, and I absolutely love the content and your positivity and your breakdowns and all that fun stuff that, I think you know, we need that in the space, and we really need people to be enthusiastic about this industry and about
Mm,
what the comics are just such a special part of my life and a lot of
mm,
people's lives. And to be able to connect with people over you know some of the stories coming out today are just like fantastic. Like,
mm,
I think I'm having some of the most fun that I've had reading comics in the past year or so than I've had, in a while. And there's just a lot of exciting things going on. I can't wait to see what DC is going to do with All In. I can't wait
mm,
to see what Marvel is going to keep doing with the Ultimate Universe and all that
mm.
great stuff. So, I really appreciate everything that you've done, and keeping comics alive and keeping it thriving. So, it's a pleasure to be here and to be a part of this.